Hey, Jim Haas with Blaze. Today we're going to do a gas conversion. We're going from natural gas to propane. I'm going to detail out how to do that and show you how to do a leak test. Always a good idea anytime you do any kind of maintenance or repairs. Here we go. Before starting any maintenance or repairs, make sure the gas line to the grill is shut off. Okay, we're going to come around to the back of the grill. If you haven't already pulled the cotter pins out of the ends of the burners, they're real easy to get to from the back of the grill. If you're on a cart, this is not a problem. If you're on a built-in island, you might have to pull the grill head out to get to those cotter pins. You can get to them from the front, a little more challenging. If you want more details on that, you can see my video on initial setup as to how to get those cotter pins out. Now, coming around the back of the grill, there's this vent hood, this vent cover rather, on the back side of the grill. You want to undo the 4 screws, get that vent cover out of the way so we can access the orifice for the rear rotisserie burner. This is usually the orifice that gets forgotten in any gas conversion. So take that cover off, and then you're going to see a brass fitting, a brass connection on a bracket with a brass nut on the inside of that bracket. With some channel locks or some pliers, get in there and loosen it. A couple of threads is probably all you need, and then you can get it off the rest of the way by hand. If you can find a small pair of channel locks or pliers, it's going to be a little easier to get in there. Mine were just small enough to get into that space. And then pull that fitting loose. You're going to see this brass orifice on the end. So with, again, channel locks, pliers, very gently loosen that brass fitting, take it off. You'll know the rear rotisserie fitting, orifice rather, from all the rest of them because it is slightly bigger than all the rest in the packet that's in your conversion kit that comes with your Blaze grill. So once that one's off, take your new liquid propane fitting, or natural gas, depending on which gas type you're converting to. Tighten that up by hand and then just snug it up with your pliers or channel locks. No need to get crazy tight on this, just snug it up real nice. And then put that assembly back together. Again, once you have the fitting inside that bracket, hand tighten with the brass nut and snug it up with your pliers or channel locks. Again, none of these fittings need to be extremely tightened. Don't crank down on them. As long as they're snug, should be good to go. All right, if we're converting from natural gas, you're going to want to find your regulator. It's going to be attached to the manifold on the rear of the grill, usually on the left, depending on the model you have. In your conversion kit, when we're converting to liquid propane, you'll find this brass elbow. Using some yellow Teflon tape. The yellow is rated for gas lines, so that's what you want to do. Thread that into the end of the natural gas regulator by hand, and then give it usually about 1 additional rotation with some channel locks. Is going to tighten that thing up just fine, as long as the end of that elbow is facing downward. It doesn't have to be straight up and down, but facing downward is good. And then put some more yellow Teflon tape on the other side of that elbow, and then install your liquid propane hose and regulator. Again, finger tight, snug it up a little bit with your pliers. Good to go. Now you're going to see this cap on the top of that regulator. You want to unscrew that. Again, just get it started with some pliers, a thread or two, and then you can get the rest off with your fingers. But when you pull that cap off, you're going to see a little blue plunger attached to that cap. Unscrew that plunger, flip it around, put it back in, and reinstall the cap into the regulator. This is essentially just going to bypass this natural gas regulator when we're converting to liquid propane. Finger tight. Slightly snug it up with your pliers or channel locks. All right, moving around to the front of the grill. Time to empty this firebox. Cooking grates, flame tamers, zone separators, burners. Burners should come out real easy now that the cotter pins have been pulled. And what you are looking for on the front side of the grill, on the inside of the firebox, is a small brass fitting. This is the orifice that we are changing out. Might be a little tricky to see. If you have a flashlight on your phone or just a flashlight you could set in the firebox so you can kind of shine it in that direction. Might make it a little bit easier. Now you want to take a 6mm nut driver and carefully unscrew the brass orifice. Should come out fairly easily. And when we go to put the replacement orifice in its place, what I ended up doing is putting a little bit of packing foam in the end of my nut driver so that the end of the orifice would stick out ever so slightly. If you can get in with your fingers and screw in that new orifice by hand, a couple of threads, that would be great. My fingers are just a little too big to get in this space, so I had to do it with the nut driver. Just be very careful, go slow, be patient with it. You really do not want to cross thread these orifices. And you'll be able to tell pretty quickly if it's going in effortlessly or not. And then once it goes in, tighten it down by hand ever so slightly, just snug it up. Again, you really don't want to crank down on these. And once that's in place, repeat the process with all the remaining orifices. All right, time to hook up our propane tank. Install that hose and regulator, turn the propane tank valve on. We want to pressurize the system because we're going to do a leak test now. Always a good idea when you do any maintenance or repairs. And with a bottle of soapy water with the gas turned on, just squirt any connections at all. And what you don't want to see are any bubbles that arise. That's going to signify a gas leak. Don't forget the rear rotisserie orifice. And now pull the drip tray out. We're going to do a leak test on the main valves. This is a little tricky to get into with the camera, but if you look from underneath with the drip tray out, you can see the manifold. You can see where the valves attach. Want to give those a good squirt with the soapy water and just confirm that we don't have any gas leaks. And now with your burners, which really nice that Blaze has done the last several years on their burners, there's this air shutter adjustment with a single Phillips head screw. You can loosen it, and it's marked natural gas or propane. You want to open that shutter up to whatever the gas type is that we're converting to, which in this case is propane. And sometimes these shutters need a little more adjustment depending on high wind areas or elevation. You might have to open or close them a little bit, but where they're labeled on the fronts of those burners is usually going to be great, and it's definitely a good start. So once the air shutters are adjusted, tighten them back down and start putting everything back together. Burners, flame tamers, heat zone separators, it's all part of the cooking system. And of course your cooking grates. It's time to fire it up, see what the flame looks like. You should be seeing a blue flame across the entire burner, both sides of the burner, and it should be about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch high. If you're getting a little yellow in your flame, or if the flame bead looks like it's jumping off of the burner, you might have to adjust those air shutters. But otherwise, you're good to go. Don't forget to reinstall your rear vent cover on the back of the grill. And happy grilling. I hope this video helped. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for watching.